I didn't hear my own either, so I like, clap. There we go.
Are you recording, Jess?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't see my waveform though.
But it turns out we are content creators, and this is a very special episode of the Halcyon Frequency podcast. Welcome in. Today we are joined by the fabulous Suwey and the equally as fabulous Wawa Jess. Welcome in. How are you both?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Jess, how are you?
I'm decent, given the time of day. I guess it's nearly my bedtime.
Same. I'm about to head to bed too.
Well, we'll get you there soon, but first we are going to be talking about how we got into streaming. Now, I know that there has already been an episode that has gone out involving, I believe it was Blind, Kiri, and Bellinair, and but we're going to give a bit of a perspective about our backgrounds and how we kind of got into everything. How are you feeling about this, Jess?
I look forward to hearing about you two.
Well, I guess like the obvious place to start would be like, what were each of our original interactions or involvement in Twitch? Like, how do we end up coming to the platform?
Mine's like a really long story, actually.
Well, we've got some time.
Yeah. So, I started like getting into more mainstream multiplayer gaming back in like 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. And I remember finding this YouTuber who was playing Minecraft, and I ended up joining their community. And then I found out they streamed, and I think they started streaming like after that. I think it was Twitch at that point. I don't think it was Justin TV. It was a different account and stuff back then too that I was on. But I was part of their community. I was too young to stream. And then after I was done with being in that community in like 2015, I was in high school. I was busy being a high schooler, and I kind of tapered away from the internet for a little while. So that's my start on Twitch.
Yeah, right. What about you, Jess? What were how did you end up coming to Twitch for the first time?
Well, it ties directly into the topic, actually, because when I don't know where to begin with this. When I started streaming, that was my first time on Twitch. But how I got there was I was actually like, this was back in maybe 2017, and I was very unfamiliar with the world of content creation and like people making content about games. Don't ask me how, I don't know. In 2017, I was very unfamiliar with it all. And actually, Solandre had an old friend from high school who started doing content creation like on YouTube and Instagram and things. And he showed her stuff to me, and I was just like, whoa, people do this? Like, they play games on the internet? And so I was like, what is Twitch? I'm going to look at Twitch. Twitch is cool. I'm going to do this too. And there we go. That's the whole episode. That's how I'm here.
Meanwhile, I told half my story.
It feels like such a big leap to go from not knowing about Twitch to being like, okay, I'm going to be streaming. This is how I'm, this is me now. This is what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, no, it was completely random, and it was really quite the jump, and it was a lot of culture to learn.
Oh my gosh.
It was so much culture, and like my first viewer, like for a long time, like, cause I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was streaming to like one or two people, and I had one viewer who was like very into Twitch culture, and he like schooled me on it all. Like, this is what all these global emotes mean, and like this is this, and this is that.
So
and I think that's what actually kept me going, because I probably would have given up.
You were on the fast track to PogChamp then.
Yeah.
It took me a while to learn too. I definitely had viewers who they'd say something in chat and I'd be like, what does that mean? Like, it still happens today. I literally learned like 2 weeks ago what /s means. Apparently that's sarcasm.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know forever. And I just kind of just was like, well, that's a weird face, and moved on. I thought it was an emoji.
That reminds me of the fact that it wasn't until after I was partnered I learnt about BTTV and stuff like that, and like those other emote platforms and stuff like that. And there was a couple of friends that I were with that were just furious with me for just being so completely ignorant. And it was...
I'm going to be mad at you for that.
It's more like, how can you be so out of touch and yet be partnered on Twitch? You know, I think that was more the angle. Like, how dare you have the audacity? But it's like, I always just assumed that people just had funny messages, that it was like a bit of a meme to be like, you know, rat jam or something like that. I didn't realize there was a GIF or something. Because I would just be like watching on mobile.
I went through that for a while, yeah, but I think I might have figured it out. I don't know when you got partnered.
Oh, man.
But maybe I figured that out sooner than you.
Figured it out way sooner. I was like a week in, and my chat was like, get BTTV, add emotes to your channel, let's go.
Yeah, no, I was not like that. But I mean, I had a very, like, almost a polar opposite experience of Jess in terms of actually coming to Twitch for the first time. And it was a much more kind of gradual exposure, because I first came to Twitch in 2013. I think it was 2013. It would have been around then. I was living in the UK at the time, and I read an article about Twitch plays Pokemon. I was like, oh man, that sounds really cool. I want to, take part in this. And so I used Twitch for a couple of weeks to be part of the whole Twitch plays Pokemon thing. And then I didn't touch it again until about 2017 or so. And at the time I was in the midst of a massive obsession with CSGO, and I was...
PUBG. PUBG was the big one in 2017.
It was, yeah.
That was how I first found Carnage.
Oh, was it? There you go.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like this guy's huge because he's It was just like, who's this person in the beanie playing PUBG? And like, after watching him for like a few weeks, was like, oh, I think this guy's like kind of famous.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
That's hilarious.
Man.
But yeah. I was in the midst of playing CSGO a whole bunch, and I eventually just randomly one day came across a player on the other team who was streaming. They had their Twitch handle in their name, and I just clicked over just out of curiosity, and they were really entertaining and really funny, and I was just like, oh, I'll hang out and watch this. And up until then, I was definitely one of those people that would be kind of like, you watch people play video games, like, come on, if you want to play video games, just play video games yourself. What are you doing watching people? And then I think I remember having my first interaction with this streamer, and she was like, I don't know, she had like probably like 20 to 30 people watching her, and like she responded to my message and stuff like that. And I was just like, in that moment, I was like, oh, I get it. I get why this is an appealing prospect, because it's entertainment and interactivity at the same time. And that was kind of the moment where I was like, you know what? I would love to be able to stream. Unfortunately, at the time, I did not have good enough internet to be able to do so. And it wouldn't be for, I think, another year or so until I had good enough internet to be able to stream. Classic Australia story,
And I feel like you guys have like very sudden stories compared to me, actually, because like I always was interested in making content. Like when I was like, I don't know, when I like 2011 or something, I decided to post to YouTube actually videos of little me singing, right? Yeah, my mom ended up finding it because we had a mutual friend on Facebook, and I was telling all my Facebook friends about it. you know, because I played Facebook games and it was like random people.
Typical Facebook. Got it.
Yup. And then they sent it to my mom, and I literally got grounded from my computer for like a week, right?
For posting on YouTube?
Yeah, because I was like a little kid singing a cover, and it was like showing my face and everything, and my mom didn't want creeps looking at me. But like, I didn't get any warning that like, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this. It was never a conversation. It was just suddenly, hey, you're grounded. You need to not do that. So yeah, I didn't not do that. In like 2012, like a year or two later, I literally was posting videos of me playing a game that I loved at the time, and it was like basically a little like social game, not too different from Club Penguin, and it wasn't Club Penguin, but it was similar, right? And you could talk in like a text chat. So instead of using like my voice or showing my face, I would just like do like little music videos, because it was the music video era. You all know what I'm talking about. The YouTube music video era, where it was like popular to post music videos. You know, make little videos to songs and stuff. And I also made like these little stories and stuff. And so that was like a huge thing I did for a long time. And I remember like literally editing the like videos in Windows Movie Maker back when that was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was bad. It's cringe. I occasionally look at it still, and it's cringe.
Oh no, yeah, that would probably kill me a little bit inside.
Oh, I don't have access to the email anymore that's on that account, so that account is up there forever.
Oh no.
Oh, jeez.
It's
there
like,
you go. If anybody wants to go digging.
Yeah, good luck finding it. But because it wasn't under the name Suwey, it was like long before Suwey existed, you know.
Yeah.
And then
So it's a Suwey Easter egg.
yeah, it does exist out there. I mean, there's also in high school, I posted a few covers on the SoundCloud, which I haven't actually really talked about before, but I think one of them got like 5,000 views randomly.
Wow.
And so I had like lots of little forays into content creation, right? And then when I graduated high school and I was new to college in 2018, you know, like I didn't have like a big group of friends I could hang out with all the time. Like I had a bunch of spare time all of a sudden, and I was just kind of lonely because I didn't really know what to do with it. You know, like a lot of my friends had gone out of state for college. I still stayed at my parents' house, and like making friends in college was proving kind of difficult because I was just at a community college. And I tried to find a place I belonged online, and it was messy and didn't go very well. So yeah, I tried like joining different Discord servers and whatnot, and I didn't really find it. And then at the time I was watching a lot of RT Game Crowd on YouTube, and I was just watching his streams, and I was just like, man, it'd be so fun to stream, but I just don't have the internet for it. And then one day I was just like, why don't I have the internet for it? So I asked my parents if I could see like what their internet plan was and everything and how much they were paying. And I found one that was cheaper and fast enough to stream off of. And then like the day the new internet was in, I streamed.
Wow.
There you go.
And I was just so excited because I finally got to make a community where I felt like I belonged. Because I was just really struggling to find a sense of belonging, especially because like I had a lot of problems with in high school. By the end, it just kind of felt like most everyone in my friend group didn't like me. You know, like I'm pretty sure they did like me. It's just like it felt like it to some degree, right? So I had like this sense of not belonging, and I was really excited to find a place where I felt like I truly belonged. And so I made a little community over time, and yeah.
That's really nice.
I didn't know like any of that.
It's a really long story. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. We're here to talk about it, but I had no idea.
Yeah. it was loneliness and like feeling alone and wanting to find a place I felt like I belonged, and like a place where people who I vibed with were there, because I was just struggling to find anyone I vibed with, like it can be hard to find people you actually get along with well. It's
Definitely.
surprising.
Yeah.
Well, I think my journey into content creation on Twitch may seem a little bit sudden from the phrasing before, but it's worth noting that I was doing YouTube for a long time before that. Like I think I've been uploading casually on YouTube from like around 2010, 2011. And I don't remember what channel that was under, to be honest, but there's probably some Drongo gems out there. However, my current channel, the Bloody Drongo channel, that came about in 2014, and that one has had, somewhat consistent uploads on it ever since then. And I mean, I think before I ever came to Twitch, I'd, racked up, a few hundred subscribers and, a couple of 100,000 views and something like that over the channel itself. I've unlisted a lot of the old videos now, but there's still, a few of those older videos where you can see young, youthful Drongo if you're interested out there from, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. And so that for me was my creative outlet, and I enjoyed the idea of making stuff to entertain people, and it started out as a way of entertaining my friends, because I used to play a lot of a game called Worm Online. I still play it, but I used to make YouTube videos for that, just strictly to entertain the group of friends that I had, because we had this big PvP centric guild or faction in the game. And so we used to make silly videos in that, and that was kind of my big thing. And starting off using like Bandicam and Movie Maker, it was a whole time. It was a lot of fun actually, but I really did not enjoy editing. That was like my least favorite part of the whole thing. So as soon as I had good enough internet, like it used to take me, I think for a 10 to 20 minute video, it used to take me like 6 to 7 hours to upload. So
oh my gosh, same, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, really quick,
Pain.
back to like the Bandicam stuff. Did you ever have like the little thing where it showed like the basically like a little star whenever you clicked? You know what I'm talking about?
A little star that it would show where it clicked.
Yeah, like if you clicked, it would like show a little like thing on the screen. I don't think it was Bandicam that did that.
Talking about.
Okay, well, someone will know what I'm talking about. I thought that was the coolest thing.
I don't know the star. I'm sorry, Suey.
Yeah, you could have like it could be any color you wanted, and it was like it would show where someone clicked. It wasn't like a star. It was more like an asterisk.
Oh, do you mean like the little ping thing that you could do with it?
Yeah.
Right, gotcha. Okay, yeah.
I remember thinking that was the coolest thing, and only the cool kids would use that.
Okay.
It was so dorky. And then like I set mine to be pink, and I thought I was the coolest stuff for that.
Oh man. Oh dear. Yeah. No, there was a software before Bandicam. I'm trying to remember what it was, but it had like it had a watermark. Oh, I forget what it was. Oh, was it Fraps? It might have been Fraps before Bandicam.
Dude, I think that's what I'm talking about. Hold on. Yes, this is what I used. And this was the thing that had like the little ping whenever you clicked at it. You could make it any color. I didn't like OBS because I thought it was too confusing. So
OBS was confusing as heck to get into. Like I was completely mystified. I had no idea.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I remember that.
But
honestly, like getting started was just the biggest learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really fun for me at the time.
Yep.
Just there was so much to learn because I went from having like no experience with setting up audio, no experience setting up video or any of that. And just like my stream was real bad. Like when I started audio wise and stuff, like it was not production value.
What year did you start streaming, Jess?
2017.
Gotcha. Yep.
Oh my gosh, were you guys nervous on your first stream? Like, I was
Yeah.
shaking the entire time on my first
Yeah.
stream.
The first
I
time
was
somebody talked to me,
shaking.
I remember that the feeling I had in my cheeks, like I turned red.
Well, dude. So, I have a friend who still comes by my stream and is still a moderator, but he was like a friend of mine that like really supported me when I first started streaming. He watched my streams and then he brought one of his friends in and said that they were a random and didn't tell me till like way later.
Oh, bless.
That's mean.
It's also like really sweet because I was so excited to get my first random viewer.
I see what you mean.
You know, I
Yeah.
thought that they were my first random viewer, and like I was so excited.
That's great.
Yeah, I still remember like the first few times that I had viewers, and like I think like my motivation for initially starting, like I was first off like just blown away by the idea of Twitch and content creation, but I think it was just so cool like seeing somebody just making content. But like I had no idea how to just turn around and make content, and so like it was just scuffed at first and I had no idea what I was doing. Like what was I playing, what categories was I in? Like it was just craziness. I was trying anything and everything, and that's, I don't know, that's how I found my first viewer, who doesn't really show up that much anymore. Occasionally he still does, and it's kind of neat actually, like to see like our paths have kind of gone different ways, but just to every now and then meet back up, you know, and be like, wow, remember 2017?
Dude. Yeah, mine was my first stream was November 11th, 2018.
Yeah, I think I was. I think it would have been around February. Feb 2018. I think would have been my first stream.
Oh wow, so I'm the baby of the group then in that way. I mean, in more ways than one, but
I sully gnomed myself to see when my first stream was, and I think it was February 2017.
There you go.
Because last year I had my 5-year stream anniversary.
Yeah, I had mine earlier this year, which is pretty bizarre to think about that, you know, that 5 years has gone by so quickly. It only feels like it still feels like it's 2020, honestly.
Yeah, I know. So I keep saying this to like all of my subs, and I feel like a broken record, but like there are some people who were introduced to my channel, or I was introduced to them early pandemic, and they started subscribing, and now their sub streaks are hitting like 2 years and stuff. And I'm just like, how? We
Yeah.
just met.
Yeah, I know.
We literally just met like yesterday.
I know. Dude, watching the sub number goes up is kind of scary because like someone will just resub and I'll be like, what do you mean you're at 30 months? Excuse you. How, like, some of my friends, my online friends will, like, sub to me, and I'll just be like, we've been friends that long? No. Nah. Nah.
Yeah. I think with, I kind of skipped over that initial exciting period that you two, I guess, had in terms of, oh yeah, you got your first viewer sort of thing, because I already had that established audience from YouTube. I think I basically went from like, you know, to basically straight to like 10 viewers, and they were pretty engaged and active viewers as well. And
That's great though.
oh yeah, it was amazing. Like it meant that I was pretty much instantly hooked from the first stream, because I was like, okay, this is super fun. Everybody's super engaged. I'm getting all of the satisfaction that I would get from making YouTube videos without having to edit. So this is a win-win for me. So I'm totally into this.
I hated editing too, dude, because like it's it's so hard not to make it, like, try to make it perfect when you edit. Like, I do Let's Plays videos on my YouTube now, and, like, I literally have told myself, no, we are not going to edit this. Like, if I actually edit it, like, beyond, you know, just making sure the end and beginning are good and there's no, like, awkward pauses. And by awkward pauses, I mean, like, oh, I had to pause the video, and so, like, there's a moment where I was pausing it, or something like that. If there's, like, if I were to edit it harder than that, I would never post anything. You know, it's never gonna be perfect. I'm always gonna find something I could change. So I just need to put it out there and accept that, like, I'll slowly grow and get better with time.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I hate editing as well. I now outsource that because I hate it that much. It was like one of those repetitive, mundane tasks that would get in the way of everything. My brain would just avoid it and dread it, and I hated like having a stream because then I would have to go and edit the stream for like to cut down the VOD and stuff and like export it, and I hated that.
The day I can afford to hire an editor will be a very happy day.
I mean, it's so if we're talking about affording an editor, realistically, I can't. But for mental health reasons, it's worth it to me.
Very
just
fair.
have
It's like it's an expense that I sink, basically, you know.
I've just, like, done everything I can to make it as streamlined as possible. Like, I have a exact template. I write everything in on my YouTube stuff. You know, like, when it's Twitch VODs, I literally just grab the beginning and the end of each game and just nab that, you know? And then each game comes out on a different day. And it's like, what, an hour of work every few weeks, so...
I hate it.
That's fair.
This could be a good topic for our next ADHD cast. ADHD cast and mundane repetitive tasks, and see how well that goes for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I don't even have ADHD, or like I don't think I do. I mean, like I show symptoms, but I think I show like a neurotypical amount of symptoms, I think. I don't know. All my friends have it though, it feels like. I don't know why.
Everyone's got the ADHD now.
Dude. But like I don't know.
I'm just kidding, by the way.
There's got to be something with me socially in a way though, because like the way I space out about things, like I got to have something.
You know, I actually have like a running theory right now that a lot of content creators are actually ADHD because it is a profession that appeals to an ADHD brain because it's always something different. It's like what you're doing each day changes and your interactions are different. Your experiences are different, like on a daily basis, basically. Because like recently, a lot of content creators are like getting diagnosed or like coming out that are coming out that they're ADHD or like neurodiverse. And so this is my running theory. I need to like poll people.
I think you're probably right that there is a higher amount of neurodivergent folks within I think within any kind of creative profession. I think there's a certain...
I think even if you looked at like the people who utilize Twitch, you would probably see that as well.
Potentially,
just because of the nature of the platform.
Mm-hmm. I think there's also...
This is very off topic.
Well, I mean, I think it's relevant in that one of the things that I wanted to talk about was finding out more about how actually starting streaming on Twitch has impacted each of your lives and, I mean, what it's changed for us. Because, I mean, obviously, we've all been doing this for, you know, over 5 years or coming up to 5 years now. So that's a pretty significant portion of our lives. So it's got to have had some degree of effect.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's had huge impacts for me, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like absolutely massive. I think it's starting streaming and content creation has probably been responsible for some of like my biggest changes in life.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, like, I feel like I've grown a lot and I've gotten to, like, know myself better and be more comfortable as myself, and, like, you know, that sense of belonging I was talking about before, like, it's done wonders for my mental health. So
That's great.
yeah, because, you know, I had a place to, like, talk about my problems and stuff a bit too. I mean, some of the stuff I complained about when I was earlier was Halcyon knows. Way before I moved, they're just like, Sue, get out of there, you know, because, like, it was a bit toxic living with my fam. Not due to their own faults necessarily. It's just, you know, like, circumstantial stuff. And yeah, it's just like having my community and streaming and all of that has helped my mental health, has helped me gain a lot more confidence, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that would be a good outlet. Or at least a place to find reprieve from things that are challenging in life.
And escapism too, like,
yeah.
I mean, okay, I couldn't really escape when my sister was throwing tantrums and I, like, was just streaming through that. That definitely happened. But, you know.
I think it's interesting that in a way, I definitely avoided trying to create a community for as long as I could because I did not want the responsibility. So I probably streamed for about a year before ever setting up like a Discord server or something like that. And I really, really tried to not use the word community because I used to kind of, whenever I'd hear it, it almost sounded corny. But then eventually after a year or so, maybe a couple of years, I eventually was just like, oh crap, I have actually made a community here, haven't I?
Yeah, I was kind of the same. Like, I didn't start, I don't know, I didn't start with any goal in mind. Like, of course I went from not knowing anything about Twitch to seeing like these major success stories and being like, holy crap, that's something that can happen to people. Like, wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily like something I set out for from the beginning. At the same time, though, like, having that be one of my first impressions, I think has always kind of been a little bit negative for me as far as like setting goals, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you see people like, for example, Pokimane has, like, you know, she shot into stardom, right? And so I was watching her just, or like looking at her just like, oh, I want to do that. But in reality, like, that's not really feasible. I mean, there's always a chance, but it's not really feasible, you know? Like, it's so unlikely. But at the same time, I'm just like, oh, but what if it did, you know? And then you just,
yeah, I mean,
it could spiral.
Course, like, nowadays, like, I'm very realistic about things, but at the same time, like, I had no idea what I was doing. That was my cat bonking my microphone. I had no idea what I was doing. Like, why am I streaming? I don't know. I just am. And honestly, that's how a lot of my 5+ years of streaming has been. Like, transitioning from like a hobby streamer into a full-time streamer wasn't even necessarily a move with like a plan. It was mostly like I hit a quarter-life crisis. And like, I at the time was working in research, and I have a degree in biology. I was working as a researcher / lab tech and stuff and supporting research projects, and was kind of faced with a decision, like, do I go forward in my education, as in get a master's and get a PhD and enter academia, or what else am I going to do? Like, this is what I've trained for, but it turns out I hate it. And so I was kind of faced with that.
It can be very tedious being like a lab tech or a research assistant or something.
I actually liked that job. The problem was there was no growth unless you furthered your qualifications, as in went to school and racked up more debt and stuff.
Gotcha.
And so this was around the same time where I encountered content creation. And really, I think what appealed to me was just the complete freedom of it and the creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know at the time because, like being diagnosed with ADHD was only recent, but I just really craved that kind of outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've always been very geared toward creativity. Like at the time I was doing a lot of cosplay with my IRL friends and things. And so it was just cool to be able to take gaming, which was previously a solo hobby or like something I shared immediately with friends, and like make something creative out of it.
Oh my gosh, I never played single player games prior to streaming. Like, I would literally only play multiplayer games because I got too lonely when I played single player. Like, legit. And if I did play a single player game, I always did it like in a call with a friend who was also playing the same single player game. Like, it was a thing for me back then. And now, like, I can play single player games even like off stream, not recording, but back then I couldn't because I just got lonely. Like, games was my socialization time, and I didn't otherwise really get socialization time.
Mm. Yeah, that makes
Yeah, that's not the
sense.
case for me at all. Not for me. I before streaming actually it was like very, I don't want to say private with my gaming. I just did it. Like since I've been a kid, like it's just something I did. Like with friends, by myself, I played all kinds of things, but I think this would be a topic for a different themed episode about relationships with games changing, becoming a streamer. But like I have totally experienced that. And like streaming has completely changed like how I go about gaming now.
I think it's interesting looking at the kind of progression of getting more involved with streaming and that line between a hobby and a job, because I was definitely somebody who was always adamant that this was just a hobby. And I kind of said that there's like, I think about 3 years in was where my stream started to get, a little bit larger. I think around then was when I got partnered, and people would be like, "Oh, Drongo, you're going to go full time?" And my answer was always, "No, there's no way I would ever go full time with streaming. It's just not, it's not certain enough income. There's so many different factors that go into it." And I was just like, "No, I'm not interested. I've got a good job that I'm happy with now. I don't have any plans on leaving it. I'm just gonna, keep on keeping on." And it wasn't until probably another year after that where my revenue from Twitch was starting to grow to a point where it's like, maybe it is something that's feasible. I don't know. Should I consider it? And then it wasn't until I had some health diagnoses at the end of it would have been 2021 now. That I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna either have to stop streaming or have to stop my day job, and I have to make a decision, because realistically I was doing, like, for the entire time that I've been streaming, I was doing like maybe 20 to 30 hours a week on stream stuff, and then I'd be doing 60 to 70 hours a week on my day job in finance. And I'd done that for like 4 years, and it just was not sustainable at that point. So I was literally forced to make that decision. I was just like, well, you know what? I will leave that behind. And it just so happened that there was a couple of decisions that were made within my job that made that decision to go in a particular direction a little bit easier, because I just had enough with it. I was just like, okay, I'm ready for something else. And so I was like, all right, fine, I'll give it a go and see how it works out. So I've been full-time now for nearly a year, which is bizarre to think that it's been that long already.
Been same, but not by choice. I'm trying to find a job, but I've been job searching for nearly a year now, so I've been pretty much full-time that whole time. But I just thought of something, is when I was really little, when I was like 5, right? I always wanted to be a famous singer, because I wanted to like be able to go out and make a crowd happy and like make them smile and just brighten up their days. And something about streaming is like I get to do that, and I don't have to do something like singing or something where like getting an audience is like nearly impossible. You know, like I can do it just by being myself and not really worrying about anything else.
Right, you know, I kind of have that in common a bit, not so much with singing, but as a kid, I kind of wanted a profession to help people.
Me too.
And not necessarily that streaming helps people, but in some ways I think it does. Like as a kid, I was thinking that I wanted to be like a doctor or
Same.
something.
If it wasn't
mean,
singer, it was doctor for me.
I majored in biology. I was an EMT for a long time, like training and like preparing to potentially go and continue training to enter the medical field, which I'm very glad that I didn't do. But yeah, it's ended up being like a creative outlet that sort of meets that drive I've always had in my life, like just wanting to like do something to benefit others.
Me too.
I think the desire to create is definitely something that at least resonates with me. I never wanted to be a singer. I don't have any kind of musical talents, but I have always enjoyed entertaining people, and telling stories was always something that I've been, fairly good at, and that was kind of my thing at school, was being able to tell a good story, spin a good yarn to your mates kind of thing, which is a very typical thing in Australia. And that was, the kind of pathway that I, was like, oh man, that would be great. And I think when I finished school, high school, I put in my yearbook that I wanted to go into radio to entertain people. And it's kind of funny that even though that's not what's happened, in a lot of ways, where I am now is kind of a better version of what 18 or 17-year-old me would have envisaged. And if it wasn't that, then I would have been a marine biologist, not a doctor.
I mean, that's where I ended up going. Like once I got into college and everything, I actually like not so much marine biology, but yeah, like environmental biology and stuff. And I really liked it. It's just I don't like everything else involved with like people.
Mm-hmm.
And
unfortunately, I didn't have the grades to go to university or college, I guess you guys would call it. So it was never an option for me. But it was, it's just funny how these things end up, because I think when I left school and I didn't get into any of the schools that I was hoping to get into to do, I think it was either media studies or journalism were the general courses that I was applying for to get a bachelor's degree in those. And I didn't get into any of those. So I was just like, oh, well, there goes that. And so I obviously made the jump from wanting to go into TV and radio to becoming a cobbler. So that's the obvious jump there. And I never thought that I'd end up where I am now. So it's kind of nice.
A cobbler is shoes, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I think I just had to confirm. Every time I hear the word cobbler, I think of like a road, like a cobblestone road.
I think
Well,
it's
it's
shoes.
a dying art. There's a lot of people that don't know what cobblers are.
I would believe it's a dying art.
Yeah, I only ever read about them in books growing up. I didn't hear of it being a real thing. I thought it was like a thing from like not now.
No, I am a fully qualified cobbler, and I can also do engraving and all kinds of leatherworking and saddlery.
That's super cool. I would love to get involved in leatherworking. # on the bucket list, by the way.
Mm-hmm. It's very satisfying.
Along with blacksmithing. Blacksmithing would be super cool. Woodworking.
Honestly, like I think that sort of like physical creative work is an excellent outlet for me. If I wasn't going to do this, I think I know now that I would like to go back into something like that, because it is just problem solving and everything's different every day. You're always doing something different, but you're always thinking about stuff and having to come up with solutions to things and making something, and you have something to show for it at the end of the day, and it always feels very satisfying.
That's why I liked cosplaying.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would make my own cosplay and stuff, like foam and everything. It was great. I keep wanting to get back into it. Oh, what?
Like your best cosplay?
Night Solaire. That was the peak of my cosplay career. But then I moved and we didn't have room for it, and I've just never gotten back into it.
Yeah, I feel like even if I wasn't streaming, I'd be doing something for the creative energy, though it would probably be in music still. I don't know, maybe it would have shifted to something more physical now. I don't know.
This is an interesting thing. I do sometimes find myself thinking, what would I be doing if I wasn't doing this? And it's kind of bizarre because
I think about it like every time I have a stream where like I don't make enough money. As a full-time content creator, I think that enough is like it's relative, but I think we all know that feeling. Yeah. And it's just like, what's my fallback plan here?
It's like, I think last week I had a stream where I made like $16 for like 5 hours work, and I'm just like,
oh, that's a good stream.
Oh boy, what am I gonna do next? Is everything falling apart? Am I gonna have to go get a job again? You just have those days sometimes, and
oh my gosh,
but you have those thoughts every time.
When I get streams like that,
like weekly.
When I get streams like that, I literally am just like, the next day you see me like putting in a little extra work on my job search. Cause like days, like when it's going particularly well on stream, I will just like put job searching off for a little bit. And then when it starts not doing well again, I'm like, all right, job search time, let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, I do worry, like, what is an appropriate fallback plan? Because I don't have one.
Yeah, I mean,
like I could go back into what I was doing. Like, I don't think I burned any bridges, but I don't know that I would want to, and I feel like I'd be starting over in something like a different career entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Just like starting back in what's the phrase, square one.
Yeah. I think the benefit of my situation was the fact that I made a very conscious and specific planned move into being full-time. So I was able to make sure I've got, plenty of savings, didn't have any debt, making sure everything was as planned out and structured as I possibly can. And even now, moving forwards, I've still got like little check-in points and little milestones that I need to be kind of at least trending towards achieving to kind of justify the decision I've made to keep on doing this. And I have an exit plan. I have an exit strategy. I know what I'm going to do. So if it doesn't work out, then I'm comfortable that it's okay. It's okay. And that's a good feeling to know that I have a plan to, if I need to, put it behind, and I can just look back on streaming as a positive thing. And that was a nice time in my life where I gave that a try and gave that a real crack.
That's what you do.
That is very mature and responsible of you.
I know I'm not that mature and responsible. I know that much.
I am not that organized enough.
But I'm curious what your fallback job would be, Drongo.
Well, I mean, so if I had to go back in the short term, I could easily go back into finance. So prior to streaming full time, I was a business banking manager. So I would specialize in small businesses and startups, and basically looking after them from a client perspective for banks and things like that. And that's a pretty specialized role because it's a very highly regulated industry, and there's a lot of knowledge and experience that needs to go with that, but at the same time there's a lot of people skills involved as well, so there's kind of a Venn diagram overlap of what I can bring to the table in that respect. So I'm confident that I could go back into finance, and my plan would be to go back into that for at least a couple of years, which I could do comfortably. And then after that, I would look for a more physical, creative job. Along the way as well, I'm also open to the idea of going into the game industry, either in some kind of finance role or even into a creative or community management role style thing. But at the moment, the industry isn't exactly flourishing in that respect. It's a pretty tough and competitive place right now, so that's not something I'm banking on or planning on, but it's another option that I'd be happy with.
I know all about that. Been unemployed, searching for a job in the game industry for a year now.
Yep. Yeah, it's tough.
It's rough. Like you just gotta get lucky and have someone take a bet on you, you know? And getting that first person to take a bet on you is so hard in the gaming industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Well, I can't imagine, but I can't imagine being in that position.
Yeah, I'm just lucky that, like, you know, I don't need a job right now. You know, like, I'm being supported and told to take the time that I need to take to get a good job, something that I really want, rather than just needing to go into something right away. Like, if I needed to go into something right away, I could. I'd probably look at tech a lot harder, but yeah.
I think that's a good place to be in. I think you can end up in a lot of emotional turmoil if you're kind of, you know, having to take the first thing that comes along. Puts a lot of pressure on you.
I do feel bad about kind of feeling like I'm like a bit of a freeloader right now though. Like I know I'm not, and like I'm still streaming basically full time and I'm job searching, and it's not like I'm not doing anything, but I still feel like a freeloader, and I still feel guilty about like not making enough money to, you know, end up being able to pay for what I'm eating even, you know.
Oh gosh, it sounds like me. So, yeah, no, I feel guilty about that stuff all the time too. Even though like it's fine, like we're covered and everything, we got it worked out. I'm still just like, I don't make enough money. Yeah. I suck.
Me too. Like, oh man, I make so little that I don't even technically have to file taxes.
No, that I don't think that can be true.
No, it is. If you make like under 12K, if you're doing like our type of job,
you still have to file if you make over $600.
Really?
Suwey's just like, oh no.
No, it's fine. Like, but like the person who because it's all self-employment. I don't know. This is what the person who was doing my taxes said.
Okay, I mean,
and it was through like
I'm fairly certain
the person doing my taxes is through H&R Block. So
okay, well, I'm not a tax professional, but I'm fairly certain I read this here that you have to file if you make over $600.
I don't know how it works fully, and I could be claiming what
I don't either,
wrong.
To be honest. Like
they just said that in my exact situation, I technically do not have to file, but because I was a student last year, I should, so I can get the opportunity credit. So, because like I'll make money by filing, but they said I technically don't have to, and I don't fully know how it works, and I'm not going to pretend I do because I don't want to give someone like incorrect advice or anything. But yeah, talk to your tax people for tax stuff. Well, I don't know anything about taxes. I might have a weird, unique situation. I don't know.
I mean, the American tax situation at large is completely convoluted and makes no sense. So, you know, that could be true.
It literally is complicated to make companies like H&R Block more money. Like that's
We are getting so sidetracked.
who cares? Dude, we covered like the most important part of this episode. We're fine, dude.
Oh dear. Yeah. I definitely sympathize with that struggle. I think if I found myself in that position where I was like having to dip into my savings to pay for basic necessities on a regular basis, I do have like a pool of money that I dip into because obviously, you know, money each month will fluctuate depending on what's going on. But if I'm not at least making it, you know, breaking even, then I don't think I would continue doing this. I'm not. I think at that point I would look to do something else because I
mean,
yeah.
I am looking to do something else, but the plan would be to keep streaming part-time. If I do get it, when I do get a full-time job, but yeah.
Yeah, that's totally fair. That makes complete sense. And I mean, ultimately, everybody's situation is entirely different, and what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for another person.
Oh yeah. That's one thing that, like, as a kid, I didn't understand. I always assumed everyone's situation was the same, and, like, I would judge people for, like, the stupidest stuff when I was younger. I used to be so, like, judgy, and I forget what the right word is, but I used to be very, like, oh, I'm better because XYZ, you know? Even though, like, oh, I'm better because I have better grades. Well, not everybody viewed grades as like the thing that makes them a better person.
Is the word you're looking for elitism?
Yeah, I was so elitist. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad I'm better now.
Me too.
That's a good response to that. Yeah.
Elitism really bothers me. That's like one of my real pet peeves. It's just like, I think because I've lived and traveled around the world so much, and I've lived in a lot of different situations myself, I have an appreciation for a lot of different lifestyles and, you know, backgrounds and cultures and things like that. And whenever I come across somebody who's like, you know, I'm better than everybody else, I know the way, I'm utterly confident in that fact, it really rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, I used to be that way.
Me too.
I'm happy to admit that I used to be that way, though, because, like, recognizing that I was that way is huge on its own.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Having the self-awareness and the introspection to be able to come to that kind of realization and, you know, be aware of that and own it as well, I think is really cool.
Hear that, guys? It's okay that past you was cringy. Just own it and accept it and know that you've moved on and you're better now. And, you know, constantly bettering yourself is the most important thing for a person to do, in my opinion.
I cannot agree more with that. That is...
I agree.
I think that's also
well.
one of the nice things about doing what this is, like content creation full time, is that it does give me the opportunity to continue to try and, you know, learn things and do things to better myself, which is really nice.
Yeah. There's always something new to learn and something new to be doing. And like no day is the same. Your interactions with people are never the same. It's honestly, it's a good way to grow, especially as someone with like anxiety and social anxiety. Like it's been very helpful for me to work towards developing social skills and things.
Yeah.
Like I've recently, within the last year, started learning another language, which I've wanted to do for a long time. And I've learned more about Photoshop and stuff like that. And yeah, just spending more time on upskilling myself has been very rewarding.
Yeah, totally. Like the amount of things that I've taught myself since starting streaming and content creation is just like, the list is huge.
Yeah.
And like, I've actually had this conversation actually, I mean, if we're going there, like with my therapist, actually, like back when we were first getting to know each other, she told me at one point that she was just so amazed at like what the job required. And she was saying there's like no hat for it. Like you wear all the hats.
Mm-hmm.
Like any hat you can think of is like what's required of a
Yeah.
content creator.
True.
And like that, I had never thought of it that way before. I was just like, wow, yeah. I mean, I have done more like with my brain doing this than most things before.
I feel like
Except maybe college.
as a
but-
content creator, I've also learned a lot that like with learning a new thing, it's okay to like learn just the very base of what you need and slowly grow on it over time, and it doesn't matter how slow that growth is. Like I used to think that you had to go really in depth and everything and you had to understand the ins and outs. If you could just make it work, that's
Yeah.
everything. Like, you know, I'm constantly learning more about making images look the way I want, you know, like, oh, the other day I learned how to do a select of a rectangle but make the edges rounded. You know,
Yeah.
like, that's such a random little thing, but like, I don't need to know how to like use the magic wand tool precisely, you know? I don't use the magic wand tool.
I think that's probably a really useful, just in general life skill, is being able to understand how to teach yourself something and how to self-motivate, learn something. I think being able to apply that just in everyday life is just so incredibly useful.
Oh yeah. Also figuring out how to ask for help and when to ask for help, and you not
Absolutely.
having the shame of asking for help. Because a lot of things I've noticed is people who struggle with things, so often people literally could just go ask for help, but they have too much shame to ask for a little help. And, you know, it wouldn't bother the other person for more than 5 minutes and it would be life changing for them, and they just don't do it. And
That's
so that's a
something-
huge thing.
Yeah, I used to be that way.
It's something you would see a lot in finance. Like, you would see a lot of people that were, I don't know if, I guess it goes like pride and shame almost go hand in hand in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
But it
That's the word I
often would
meant.
feel like they were too proud to ask for help with situations, and you'd see things go awry all the time. And even in on the other side of that, like on the client end, you would see small business owners and things like that being too proud to reach out and say, hey, you know, I'd really, you know, benefit from help with this. Do you have any insights? And, you know, actually reaching out to people and acknowledging that there is expertise and insights and perspectives that other people have on the same issue that you're tackling can be so incredibly beneficial. Like, there's just so much value to be found there, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with reaching out with that. That's not your shortcoming. It's a shortcoming as a human, and we all share that. You know, we all only have one perspective. So,
Like, even if you don't know who to reach out to, at least like talk to your friends and those who are close to you about your issues, because they might know someone you can reach out to. You know, like, you don't need to know who exactly to reach out to. As long as you talk about it, someone's gonna know who you can reach out to. You know, like, someone's gonna know who's gonna know who's gonna know. You know,
Well,
isn't there
hopefully.
like a theory where everyone in the world is like only
The seven degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
There you go. Anyone who's listening to this, I picked out a reference.
nice. Well done.
Add it to the list of 3 references that I made this week regarding pop culture.
Well done.
Wow,
so
3 is
proud
way
of you,
more than
Jess.
me.
Oh dear. Yeah.
It is a meme, okay, in my community
Okay.
that I live under a rock.
Same though.
I don't
like,
understand pop culture references.
oh my gosh. And for me, after I watch a movie, like a year later, I have no recollection of it. So people will make like references to shows or in movies, and I'm just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And they'll say what it is. I was like, yeah, I saw that like 5 years ago. I can tell you like one random fact about it, and that's all of my knowledge of this thing.
Yeah.
Better than nothing.
Once I've consumed a movie, it all kind of just becomes a blur, unless it's like ridiculously good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Harry Potter's a blur for me, even though I loved it. Most anime is a blur, even though I've loved a lot of anime.
It's because you watched it too fast.
Oh, I like binging, okay?
I'm speaking from experience.
Yeah, no, it's all a blur, and like I forget it so fast, and then people are like, how do you not remember this cultural reference? And I'm like, I don't know, and they'll make a Disney reference, and I'm like, yeah, I watched the heck out of Sleeping Beauty as a little kid. I know it was one of my favorites. She pricks her needle on a wheel, like spinning wheel thing.
Was that Sleeping Beauty?
I don't know that
Yeah.
I've seen Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she pricks her wheel on like this spinning wheel, which I don't even know what a spinning wheel does, or why it has a needle.
From my Dwarf Fortress knowledge, I believe that is how you create, what Ranger said.
No, it's not a loom. It is not a loom. A loom is like for making rugs or fabric.
Yeah, a
fabric.
spinning wheel would be to make the actual thread, I believe. I don't know. I
Yeah,
could be wrong.
the thread to then put in the loom, I believe.
That would make sense. I'm not an expert at this.
like-
This is outside of my cobbling expertise here. I did not have a spinning wheel.
I have absolutely no idea what happens in Sleeping Beauty. Like, I know she pricks her finger and a prince eventually comes and kisses her and wakes her up, but like, what's the rest of it? I don't know.
Okay, so to bring this back onto topic and to perhaps round out the episode, if you were to give somebody who is thinking of starting their own streaming career and getting started on Twitch themselves now, I guess what would be the number one thing that you would say to them, Suwey?
Just, get the very, very bare minimum to be able to go live setup. Get a stream key into OBS. Make sure that your microphone is displaying. Make sure that you have like a visual displaying. Okay, now press live. Start stream. You can figure it out live. It's okay. People expect things to go wrong on streams. Just press the start button or you're not going to ever press it.
That's solid advice. I like it. What about you, Jess?
I'm glad that you called on Suwey first because it gave me some time to to think about my answer to this question. I think I guess it kind of depends on like what the goal is, right? I think I would tell said person to set their expectations or yes, set expectations, what they want out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it just going to be a hobby? Do you actually want to try and make something out of your stream? Or are you streaming just for some friends? Questions like this, because like when I got into streaming, those were not questions that I answered until way too late in this whole like chain of events. It's something I just avoided and didn't answer. And I do think it kind of impacted my view, my progress, and also like the way that I approach things early on.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I could go back in time, I would have loved to have had more of a game plan, both with getting started, knowing or I guess having something tangible to work towards when first starting, but then also when making the decision to go full time and stop doing the thing that I had been doing for years, like actually have a plan. Because I very impulsively just, did what I did. But I think I already told you about the ADHD thing.
Yeah. I like it. I think I like both of your points. I think the only thing that I would add on top of that is just kind of a caveat that streaming is pretty hard. It's definitely not the hardest job out there. by any stretch of the imagination. There's a lot of really, really good things. If it's something you aspire to do as a job or even as a hobby, I think it's worth knowing, though, before you really invest yourself into it, that it is really tough, especially from a mental perspective. It's very emotionally taxing. And if you're not ready for that, and if you're not in a place to be able to balance that, I think it can be something that can be very tricky to navigate, because even when you're acutely aware of the fact that you're maybe somebody who is susceptible to maybe like anxiety or depression or things like that, putting yourself in a position where you're ruled by metrics, and even being aware of that, it still affects you. And I think if you can go into it with the right headspace, and I think what you said, Jess, about setting yourself like clarifying with yourself what your goals are and what you actually want out of streaming is a really good idea. That way, that can somewhat negate perhaps some of the emotional responses that you can get. And you are going to have lots and lots of ups and downs as a streamer as you progress.
Yeah. And you know what? I agree with you entirely. The mental aspect of it, like the first time I went full time, I just wasn't expecting what I encountered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like just the mental hurdle that I hit. Like it was a really rough time. And like at the same time too, Solentre had a lot of stuff going on, like with his work and things. And it was just like, I was so not ready for it.
Oh, and
Yeah.
one thing that everyone who streams probably experiences is a really weird thing about emotions in streaming. Right when you finish a really, really good stream, 2 hours later, you can be like the most just emotionally just like bleh. Like you could be so happy after a good stream, and then next thing you know, you're just sad and you don't know why. It's just like the emotions are weird with streaming. I don't know if you guys have this experience too, but
Yeah. After a stream, I usually get very antisocial.
too.
Yes, same.
Oh,
I just like check out from social media after a stream.
talk
Yeah.
to my boyfriend and that's it. Like I will not want to deal with people. I go watch some Netflix and do not bug me. Okay, cool.
That's one of the benefits for me of finishing late at night, is that there is literally nobody there to bother me. So I can just sit there for a couple of hours and just veg out and unwind and
Same.
unpack everything. So yeah, I'm definitely antisocial though.
Mm-hmm. It's rough.
Takes a lot of energy.
And then like
It does.
I don't know how some streamers will stream raid someone and then stay in their chat for like a couple hours. Like I can't do that. I raid and run, like I'm just emotionally spent. Bye. No, I'm not. I can't. My
Yeah.
spoons are gone.
And
I'm gonna go veg.
everybody's capacity for that sort of thing is very different, I think. And I guess that's another probably good bit of advice for people, is that it's probably a good idea to really try not to compare yourself to people on a consistent basis, because everybody has different situations, everybody has different capacity to put in time and effort and energy, and everybody has different circumstantial and environmental factors that can go into either succeeding or failing. And there's so many different bits and pieces that have to come together to make a successful stream, that it's really unfair on yourself to heavily compare yourself to others. And I think it's something to try to avoid if you can.
No, that's also very, very good advice, especially with Twitch. Actually, like a lot of benefits. Like as a North American streamer, we don't experience those benefits as much as other regions do. And like probably like my mid streaming career, like I got really salty over it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was really tough to see like people in other countries getting support from Twitch and like getting opportunities and getting exposure, and just like meanwhile being drowned in like North American streamer stuff, you know?
Yep. No, I feel that.
Yep. That's understandable.
And so I think that that's really, really good advice. Like learning to kind of detach myself from that impulse to compare my situation to others has helped me a lot. And being able to grow my own personality and grow my own content and grow myself rather than what I feel like I should be, where I should be and what I should be.
And it can be hard to like watch people who started streaming like way after you suddenly like, you know, become like massive compared to you, and you just have to take a step back. Like, they're different, they're not me. Like, their situation is different. Like, I don't know, I can't do anything about it. Doesn't necessarily mean that one of us is better than the other. It's just kind of how things worked.
Yep. Yeah, and absolutely. And I mean, ultimately, when it comes down to it, you could put two identical people in two identical situations, and luck is still going to be a factor in there. If nothing else ends up being different, luck is still a factor. So it's not fair to kind of open yourself up to that kind of criticism. But I think that is where we might wrap things up for today for this themed episode. Suwey, why don't you tell people who you are and where people can find you?
Yeah, sure. I am Suwey. I stream a lot. I like indie games a lot. Lots of wholesome games, lots of post-apocalyptic games as well is kind of my jam. And you can find me on Twitch. It's Suwey, yeah, I struggled. Okay, hold on. It's SUWEY. And then it's also YouTube /@Suwey. And then if you want to get to my VOD archive, it's @Suwey Streams. And then I'm also @Suwey Streams on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, etc.
There we go. Beautiful. And Jess, where can people find you and who are you?
Who am I? Good question.
The big questions, the easy ones.
Yeah, requires some introspection. But before we do that, you can find me at twitch.tv/WOAHH_JESS, Wojess. On Twitch, on Twitter and YouTube, you can find me with the same letters, but the underscores at the end rather than the middle, because somebody stole my username on Twitch.
Rude.
And I stream Mondays through No, I changed my schedules. I stream Tuesday through Friday nowadays, and I stream a lot of strategy, management, and indie variety.
Perfect. Thank you. And I have been your host, Bloody Drongo. I am a variety streamer on Twitch where you can find me live 4 nights a week. I am also a commissioned artist and a voice actor. And you can find me on Twitch as Bloody Drongo, all one word. Same name on YouTube if you want to go back and check out some of those old prior to Twitch YouTube videos that I mentioned earlier in this episode. And you can find me on Twitter as @TheBloodyDrongo. And if you want to get more of this podcast, you can go to halcyonfrequency.com or any other podcast platform. And if you can't find it on that podcast platform, let us know and we'll get it on there. New episodes every Sunday. And if you want to talk about this episode, you can join the Halcyon Frequency Discord. And a quick thank you to Peter Poole and Paul Miles for the music in this podcast, which you're currently listening to. This has been the Halcyon Frequency. Don't touch that dial. Signing off.